All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Man from St. Petersburg by Ken Follett. This is a standalone spy thriller from one of my favorite authors of all time. He's mostly known for Pillars of the Earth and his historical fiction novels, but he's also got like a dozen spy thrillers too. In fact, I've got all of Ken Follett's books over here. We'll just pan through the library here and I'll show you my entire Ken Follett book collection. It is right there on that shelf. That is every Ken Follett book that I own and my top 5 favorite authors of all time. Now let's talk about The Man from St. Petersburg, which came out in 1982. It was one of his earlier novels. Let's talk about the cover first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. This is a pretty accurate depiction of what's going on in here. I mean, it's like a very sort of minimalistic winter scene with a guy walking away from the... And it screams, I mean, it's just... The flavor of the book is in that cover right there. It's just a gritty spy thriller set in gritty times, early 1900s, pre-World War I. And then on the back we get a lovely picture of the author. So anyway, this is a young Winston Churchill. Pre-World War I is involved. He's one of the characters. Now, this young Winston Churchill, he asks a fellow named Walden to be a liaison to Russia in preparation for the war that might be coming. Churchill is like, we need to get Russia on our side against Germany and those things. I mean, there might be a war. It's looking like we need allies. The only way we could win this is if Russia is on our side. So this guy Walden is picked to be the person that gets Russia on the side of the Allies. Now, Walden is kind of like living in this big manor house. It's called, I think it's even called Walden House. But imagine Downton Abbey. That's what it is. And there's these 2 young girls that live in this manor house that are integral to the plot. Belinda and Charlotte, and they're young girls, and they kind of sneak around the place. They find all the hidey holes and secret passages, and they're kind of always spying on people because they know all the little places to lurk around and be about the mischief. So they're kind of interesting characters in this manor house. And then we get a character named Felix, who is a Russian, and he is given a task. The basic plot of the book revolves around Felix. He's an assassin. He's a young Russian peasant who grew up in brutal conditions in Russia. In fact, the conditions in Russia that he grew up in are so brutal and grim that you're almost kind of rooting for Felix to find a better life, to be successful in his assassinations, just because you feel for him because of how awful his childhood was. Now, he is given the task of going to London to kill Prince Orlov, and if he can kill Prince Orlov, assassinate Prince Orlov, this combination of England and Russia, this allyship between Russia and England, will be put on hold, if not stopped altogether, if he can just assassinate this one prince. And so that's what his journey is, and that's the journey we follow mostly. We follow Felix's journey as he makes his way from Russia to London to kill this prince. We follow Walden's journey and the manor house that he lives in as all of these relationships, and every character in this book, their relationships entangle. And like Felix's relationship, his life has entanglements with the people in Walden House that he doesn't quite realize, and then they have entanglements with people in Russia that they don't quite realize. And as he's journeying through here, there was a page 28. There was something that struck me as interesting on page 28, and I'll read it to you as Felix is making this journey. You know how Russian peasants feel about conscription. Conscription is kind of like the military draft, okay? So you know how Russian peasants feel about conscription. It's a death sentence. They hold a funeral when a boy goes into the army. Like they already, once he's conscripted, wave goodbye to him, he's a dead man. He's just going into the meat grinder. And this was in the early 1900s. I think Russia is the same today. I don't think it's changed one bit. So, I mean, and this book just shows you how grim and brutal early 1900s Russia was, and how Felix and Walden, once Felix reaches London and tries to work through these assassinations he's got to do, and Prince Orlov and everybody involved, it just becomes a tangled soap opera-like mess. And I won't tell you if Felix is successful in his journey, or if he fails in his journey, or if his journey even changes diabolically in the opposite direction, or maybe changes really for good reasons in the opposite direction. But I will tell you, there's a lot of soap opera-y drama in this spy thriller. There's a lot of action and a lot of sneaking about and spycraft and assassination type things. I just really liked it. Now here's the thing, is I read this book only once before, back in the probably 1993 is when I read it, and I didn't remember jack squat about it. So I mean, even when I was rereading it, I'm like, gosh, I don't remember any of this. In fact, what bits and pieces I thought I remembered, I was way off. And I actually kind of like it was one of my least favorite Ken Follett novels, really. Well, maybe mid-range, but I was just like, it's an absolute spy thriller gem on my second reading. I was just like, this book is dope. So I'm gonna give this, I mean, this is like a 9.5 out of 10 thriller from Ken Follett. I really, really enjoyed my reread.